All right, my friends, welcome to another video lesson. In this lesson, we're going to be discussing another aspect of color work, and that is dealing with flat or log footage. As you may have noticed, the footage that we got from the Amira camera here, which is made by Arri, looks quite a bit different from the footage that came from the other cameras and the footage provided by our interview subject. In particular, it looks sort of what's known as flat, where there isn't a whole lot of color to it. It almost looks sort of washed out and lacking saturation in general. So if I compare this to, say, one of our Panasonic cameras, look how much more color's there. It's almost shocking. So how do we deal with this? Well, again, we're going to use the Lumetri color panel to do so. We're going to bring some more color in general, add some contrast, and enrich it overall. Now looking at our Waveform Luma scope here, oh my gosh, look how dark this is. So we need to add some exposure to it as well. And for this video lesson, we're actually going to employ the use of another scope. So I'm going to head down to my wrench here in my Lumetri Scopes panel and choose the RGB Parade scope. And you can see this is actually a representation of the different components of the video signal. The red, the green, and the blue, hence the name RGB Parade. And they're all together, so they're in a parade. So generally, what we're looking for is an overall balance between these components of the signal. You want to have relatively the same level of red, green, and blue, indicating a color balance in the image. So let's head over to the Lumetri color panel here. And we're going to start with raising the exposure, because the overall image is just really dark. So I'm going to bring that slider over and raise our exposure up so that we're kind of spiking up around that 80 range here. Maybe I'll bring it up just a little bit more. Yeah. And then the next thing I'm going to do is head down to the curves panel here. Click on that, and you can see there are a variety of different panels here, but the one I'm primarily concerned with is the top one here. And I'm going to create what is known as an S-curve in the signal, and I need 3 points to do that. I'm going to head to this intersection right here, and then this one in the center. And I'm talking about the intersection between these grid lines here. And I'm just clicking to place a control point. I'm going to do one in the upper portion here. And now what I'm going to do is make an S. I'm going to take this keyframe and move it up just a little bit. I'm going to take this one down here and move it down just a little bit. And you can see the image gets an overall boost in contrast and detail when I do that. So this curve represents all of the components of the video signal together. I can affect them individually if I want to, but that's not what I need to do here because I've already got a relatively even balance between the colors. You can see the red, the green, and the blue are all right in line with each other. So I don't need to change them individually. I just wanted to change them overall. The lower part of the curve here represents the darker parts of the image. The middle is the mid-range. And then the higher part here is the highlights in the image. So I'm raising those a bit and deepening the darker parts of the image a little bit. And I think I may even pull this just a little bit further. Pretty good. Cool. Now I'm going to head back up to basic correction. And the next thing I want to do, I'm going to mess with a little bit of contrast here and see if I can add a little more richness to this image. And yeah, I think that looks pretty good around 28 or so. And the next thing I'm going to do is add more color in general using saturation. Bring that up slightly, maybe around 125, 130 or so. And now you can see we've made quite a bit of difference in this image. If I turn off the effect using my bypass toggle button here, you can see we went from this drab, dreary, flat image to this one that's full of life and color. Looks so much better. And that was done simply by using a couple of the controls here in the basic correction area, and then also creating a basic S-curve on all three parts of the RGB signal as a whole. So again, I'm going to want to transfer this to my other Amira shots, but not all the shots are exactly the same. It was easy to transfer everything to all the other camera shots here in the timeline because those cameras remained rolling throughout the entire interview. We didn't change anything. We didn't change the lighting or the position of the subject. So everything about those shots was the same everywhere they were used in the timeline. The Amira shots are not that way. You can see over here, this shot is from a different angle. The lighting is slightly different than it was when this one was taken. So I need to be aware of that. I am actually going to copy the color work I've done on this first one and paste it onto the other one, but that's going to be my starting point. I will most likely still need to make some adjustments from there. So I'm going to right click, copy, head over to this one, right click, paste attributes, make sure it's only effects in Lumetri selected, hit OK, and boom, there it is. And looking at this one, it looks a little bit darker. So I think I'm going to raise my exposure a little bit, head up to basic correction, and raise the exposure on this slightly so that it's a little bit brighter, because I think it needs to be. But everything else looks pretty good. So let's head over to this series here. The first three here are the same camera angle, and then we've got another one here. So I'm going to select the first three, right click, paste attributes, apply that, see how this looks. It looks pretty good, except I think we have a little bit too much saturation in this case. His yellow shirt is just kind of punching me in the face. So I think I'm going to bring down the saturation just slightly on this. Maybe down to, let's try 112. I think I like that better. And then I'll do the same on these here as well. Oops, went too high on that. All right, there we go. All right, let's do one more here on this cool leg swoop shot here. Again, right clicking, pasting attributes, and applying. Yeah, I think we're a little overexposed on this one. So I'm going to bring this exposure down just slightly. That's a little bit better there. And then I think I'll also drop the saturation slightly on this one too. Yeah, that's pretty good. I think I'm going to try bringing the highlights down a little bit on this too, which is not the overall brightness of the image, but the brightness of the lighter parts of the image. So I'm going to bring that down just slightly here, maybe 15, 20. That's a little bit better. All right. So I would continue this process for every other Amira shot that's in the timeline. So again, this is how to deal with footage that is shot in a flat format, in this case, log C. A lot of the higher end cameras tend to do this. And though it looks kind of funky at first, it actually provides you a lot more freedom when it comes to doing color work than you get with a camera that applies its own color profile to the image. And that about does it for this video lesson, my friends. I'll see you again in the next one.